And we're back with another episode of the JR Takes Sportscast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Rogers.
And alongside him, Jonah Hoffman. And Ryan, what'd you think about the past week for football, baseball? We got the preseason kicking off. Some guys looked great, some guys not so much. What'd you think about the overall matchup?
Well, I just think this time of year is one of the best for sports, even though it's preseason for the NFL, like just to have something to talk about with that sport that's not like, oh, did you hear that player like went to Kmart or something? Because the sports news is so dumb in the offseason. But yeah, so I didn't get to watch the whole preseason game, but I've looked at enough highlights that I pretty much saw everything I needed to see. From the preseason game of the Seahawks versus the Steelers. And honestly, my biggest takeaway from what I saw of the game was that George Pickens is that dude, so to speak. He looks like he's going to be, you know, maybe not a Justin Jefferson or one of those other young guys, but he could be. He could be that next young receiver that lights up the league. It's just a matter of who's throwing him the ball, which... unfortunately, all three quarterbacks marched down the field with ease against our defense. So that wasn't fun to watch. But for the Seahawks, what I took away was biggest thing we need to work on is tackling. I don't know what the hell happened. You know, rust is understandable, but one of the hallmarks of Seattle defense is Seattle tackling. Mm-hmm. A lot of other teams show the Seahawk method of tackling video that we have. I don't know a ton about that, but I know it's a thing. So I'm not concerned that that's going to be a problem going forward. And I know we were not playing a ton of our starters. But one thing that I think is a problem because he's supposed to be a starter, Cody Barton is not good.
I was just going to say the linebackers, I thought, kind of struggled throughout the game. I would agree with you on the George Pickens take. I thought he looked very confident. He kind of pushed around Kobe Bryant, even though Kobe Bryant played some pretty good coverage, especially on that touchdown catch. The toe tap that he had in the corner of the end zone.
3rd and 13. This is not ideal for an offensive coordinator or a quarterback for that matter. Here comes the pressure. Mason Rudolph going to go in the end zone looking for George Pickens, and he makes the catch. Does he keep his feet in? Yes, he does. It's a touchdown. George Pickens. Mason Rudolph's one of the first guys there. As he put it up, let that receiver do his thing, and man, he's been doing his thing all preseason. You see it right there, right now, 13-0 Steelers.
Right there by Matt Canada, right, one-on-one on the outside. This is something that people haven't seen. They don't know how much speed that Pickens brings to the table, and here he is, catching the feet. 1, 2, and that is a touchdown.
Ooh, look at that toe tap. Fred Astaire would have liked that one.
He's been making these plays all throughout training camp, so this is nothing new to this Steelers organization.
That looked like a veteran play right there. And just George Pickens' size, I can't remember his height and weight, but he looks like a slender but like a mean business type of receiver.
Yeah, plays bigger than his weight for sure.
Yeah. And
because Kobe's not a small guy either. I think he's just under 200 and he's like 6'1" or something. That's not a small corner by any means.
Yeah. I thought Tariq Woolen looked okay on some plays, and I mean he looked young. Pretty much every play I saw. There was a play where he had pretty good coverage. I think it was on Pickens. He was covering on one of the plays, but I mean that guy was just making plays left and right. And as far as the tackling goes, I'd agree with you. I mean, the start of the game, they kind of just marched right down the field on us, and I was like, all right, this is bringing me back to the 08-09 season when we just couldn't stop anything and just looked like a inexperienced bad team. Granted, inexperienced and bad are two different things, but I don't know. I thought I saw some age difference there with us and the Steelers, and I was very surprised at how good Mitchell Trubisky looked. He looked like he was firing on all cylinders to start the game. Even Mason Rudolph, I think I want to say he turned the ball over or we stopped him on 4th down, but then he came back and scored a touchdown immediately.
He also threw a ball right to Josh Jones's like face.
Right, and he dropped it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw someone comment that he must be taking lessons from Jamal Adams. But yeah, I think, you know, the Steelers have a legit quarterback competition going on as well between all three of those guys. I don't think Mason Rudolph is the guy that anyone wants to see starting, so I don't really see that happening. I think it's going to either be Pickett or Trubisky, but I want to guess that Trubisky starts the year for the Steelers and maybe mid-season they throw Pickett in. Who knows? Because Pickett, I mean, he started 10 for 10, didn't he?
He looked really good.
Yeah.
It was kind of annoying seeing a dude with gloves pick us apart. I was just like, are
Tiny
you
hands.
shitting me? We're letting this... Yeah, and he's not like a big, strong dude either. He looked like a dad out there, just throwing and having his Drew Brees arms, as I like to call them. But
yeah, I think for the Seahawks, because we've been talking about the Steelers a lot, but I mean, we talk about everyone on this podcast. I think the player of the game on defense for the Seahawks definitely was Boye Mafe. And he's someone that I remember Pete Carroll saying in a press conference, like all the way back in like March, that he looks a lot like Cliff Averill when he plays. And that sack he got off the edge on Mason Rudolph, where he swatted the ball out of his hand and got a strip sack, that if you change his number to 56, you would think it was Cliff Averill.
yeah, it's funny you say that because Michael Robinson during the game was mentioning how Boye Mafe even like had a stance like Cliff Averill.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of eerie because I remember after Pete said that, I was reading an article on field goals and it did like a height, weight, and athletic performance comparison between Cliff and Boye Mafe, and they were eerily similar, but Boye is a little faster and more athletic than Cliff Averill was. He's a really good athlete, man, and I think you pair him with Darrell Taylor and also kind of a forgotten guy, but Alton Robinson has like flashed in camp, and he didn't play, but Tyreek Smith, the 5th rounder out of OSU. I remember when we were talking about him after the draft, we were kind of just excited that he had experience and played in a big, powerhouse college conference.
That's Ohio State, not Oregon State. Just
yeah.
OSU, those can be confused.
I forgot. And there's also Oklahoma State. So yeah, I guess I got to be more.
You got to say the Ohio State and people will know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I need to watch some more college football this year. But anyway, I guess he's flashed at camp, but can't stay healthy, which is annoying. But
I didn't see him during the game.
Yeah, I don't know if he's even going to play in this preseason because he's been having hip issues. But
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I haven't heard anything about the injury report for this week. But I like the pass rush a lot. What I see out of the young guys and the reps I did see out of Tariq and Kobe, because they played a ton in this game. They, took their lumps for sure, especially on the touchdown passes they gave up. But I saw a play where Tariq stayed with Pickens step for step down the sideline and kind of did the
ball got thrown out of bounds. Is that
the
one? That's the play I was talking about earlier, where he had a couple plays where he could keep up with the offense. But I don't know. Everyone's still young, so I'm not concerned. Although I will say, when we were down 14-0, I was like, wow, I thought that they were going to be way better. I had my expectations way too high.
The defense in particular.
Mainly because we haven't really entered a preseason not really knowing anything about our team. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. Not knowing, but we've had Wilson for the past 10 years that we kind of know what to expect. So preseason doesn't really matter. But going into this, we have so many new young guys on defense and offense. And
not to mention Bobby being gone too.
Yeah.
And a change of scheme into more of a 3-4. So
yeah, Derek and Bo, I thought they both looked, especially Derek, he got a lot of passes, or he got really heavily involved in the offense. And then the first or second play of the second half, Bo Melton had that check down catch and just took it for 35, 40 yards.
Drew Lock, who was traded as that big part of that Russell Wilson deal. He kind of disappointed in Denver, 2nd round pick in 2019, but he has the athletic ability, and he hits A nice play right there on the flight of Bo Melton. Melton gets away from two Steeler defenders still going, and James Pierre finally wraps him up.
That was really impressive to see.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, so about time to switch gears to the offense, because we've mostly been talking about Pittsburgh offense versus our defense. So I think after watching the game, I thought I was a little bit higher on Bo Melton, but I think Derek Young might be solidifying a spot on the 53-man roster, probably as the number 5, maybe 6 wide receiver. But Cody Thompson, the wide receiver we mostly had doing special teams the last couple of years, but would be on and off the active roster, we just put him on IR this week. So I think that's another reason, and we'll get into this later, why we did a certain trade yesterday. I think because I looked at, after the game, they put out the total snap count of how much people played and in what role, and Derek Young played like 70% of the special team snaps. And for the Seattle Seahawks, bottom of the depth chart receiver position, that's the biggest indicator of who's going to make the team. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he, caught a touchdown, and I think, didn't they even do some handoffs to him? Or did I read that wrong in the box score? I thought he might have taken a handoff.
I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Well, because Derek Young, I mean, not to say he's a poor man's anything, but his comparison was Deebo Samuel in college because of the way they used him. He lined up at running back.
I remember that. I remember hearing that report about him. Yeah.
Yeah. So that versatility could go a long way. But yeah, Bo looked fast on that check down he took from Drew Lock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, one of the miscues, or I guess one of the letdowns from me offensively, was the tight ends. I thought the tight ends could have played a lot better. There was a couple drops that I saw.
And they've been hyped up a lot in camp.
And Noah Fant caught this pass on the sideline. I'm not sure if you saw it, but it was an incompletion. Why didn't the dude drag his toe? You're a professional pass catcher.
I swear.
Tight end, receiver, I don't care what you are.
Yeah.
You need to know how to do that, and you need to make that play.
When we're just playing catch at the field, fucking around, we make those toe taps.
Yeah. And so, I don't know.
It was pretty inexcusable. Maybe he's thinking it's preseason. I'm not going to, put my body on the line, but didn't like seeing that for sure.
No. And you don't want to.
Especially because it was a good ball from Geno.
Yeah.
We'll get into the quarterback competition in a minute, but that was one of Geno's better throws, I thought, reviewing the tape, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Fant, get your foot down. Colby Parkinson also had that is a guy we keep hyping up every offseason at a training camp because he keeps getting bigger. He's like Jimmy Graham size. He's like 6'7", 265 or something. He takes that hit from like a 200-pound safety and just looks like a little kid.
Yeah.
Totally drops the ball.
He had that ball. I mean, it was a tough ball to haul in the end zone. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, the dart from Drew.
2nd down and 6. The Steelers defense looking to make some plays. Play action. Lock fires over the middle, and it's knocked away. Intended for his big receiver, Colby Parkinson.
That was a good pass.
Yeah.
He should. I'm surprised that he didn't tuck that ball in. I mean, he did get hit immediately almost, but gotta make those catches, man.
It's why it's not supposed to be easy, man. It's the NFL. You're never gonna. Rarely do you get wide open easy catches unless there's a blown coverage. But yeah, I have to agree. I think the tight ends were a little bit of a disappointment for the very small sample size we got. Did Will Disley play at all? I
didn't see him, but I mean, I personally feel like he should have played and gotten out there because he hasn't proven to me that he's an $8 million wide or tight end.
Oh, maybe that's why they're not playing him. They don't want him to get hurt or something.
Again, why are we giving him $8 million? He's gotten hurt every season we've had him, basically.
I mean, I think we've beat that topic to death a little bit, but yeah, no, it is still like today or yesterday I was reading an article that he has a total $24 million contract, and because I kind of forgot about that, I'm just like, fuck, we really gave him that much money.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think that is the biggest head-scratching move in the offseason of what was otherwise a really good offseason, in my opinion, for Seattle.
Moving along to the running backs, DJ Dallas surprised me, and I would equate that to the offensive line and how they did. They dominated, I felt. And granted, they were going up against a lot of seconds for like they weren't going up against TJ Watt or anything like that.
True.
But it's always positive.
Yeah, you would way rather see a dominant preseason offensive line performance than a terrible one, because we've seen plenty of those in the last decade as Seahawks fans. And on that note, so a bunch of people in the sports writer world have ranked us as the worst offensive line in the NFL. Guess who Pro Football Focus had as the number one offensive line after the first week of the preseason? Us.
Yeah,
Best
and
pass blocking grade. Charles Cross looked like a veteran out there. Abraham Lucas did awesome. And you know what else? They had some awesome run blocking snaps, which was the concern for both of them kind of coming out of the draft. So
I've been hearing through a lot of reports from journalists at Seahawks minicamp that Abraham Lucas looks like a NFL ready right tackle. He has the size. I mean, I'm really excited to see what our two new tackles can do this year in the run game and the pass game, but the run game is going to be our strength.
So I'll send this statistic to you in post, but I saw this chart that was average yards before contact for rushing offense between all teams in the NFL. First of all, Chiefs were by far at the bottom, so yikes. But we were a full yard above the second place team. So we were on average allowing like 4 yards before contact for the running backs. That's how good we were blocking.
That usually seems like the opposite narrative for us, because we have these badass running backs that can just bulldoze people and, take several hits before they go down, like Chris Carson and Marshawn. But yeah, that's pretty insane. And even going back, like I said, DJ Dallas, when has he ever been a downhill runner like he was being? I felt like he was eating up yards every time he got the ball. That
touchdown pass that he caught, it was like a 7-yard route, but it was like a 20-yard touchdown because the rest of it was all DJ. He juked out a guy. He kind of looked a little bit Marshawn-esque on that play, I thought.
Yeah, no, very impressive. I was really happy with what I saw, because DJ, he's been on the team a couple of years, and I always, summed him up as a pass catching running back, maybe not have a very high ceiling, but I don't know. He looked a lot different out there with a capable offensive line that seems to know what they're doing, which is very exciting to see. It's like we're watching a different scheme of Seahawk offense.
A totally different philosophy for the offensive line. I mean, we're not, drafting defensive linemen and having them learn how to block anymore. So that's part of it. But the offensive line looked great. The running backs, all four, we didn't see Penny, but even down to the fourth string guy, they looked pretty good. Kenneth Walker didn't get too many snaps, but I liked the little wiggle I saw from him on a check down. We were doing lots of check downs, which, is not going to make anyone cream their pants, but it's nice to see, because a certain somebody named Wilson did not like to check the ball down and take sacks. Even Travis Homer put up a hell of a stat
I was just going to
line.
say, I saw him out there. He was pretty active in the backfield.
He's also gotten jacked this offseason. I don't know if you've seen any pictures, but that dude is like absolutely ripped now, which is good for him.
Yeah. And I honestly, like, this is no shot at him, but he kind of needed to, I felt like, because he's kind of been hanging on to the depth chart the whole time he's been on our team. So it's good to see him like beef up and kind of help solidify his role as a running back on this team.
Also, from what I've seen out of Travis and DJ both, because they were teammates at Miami, they seem like really cool guys that are totally bought into the Seattle culture. So I hope they stick around. I mean, running backs do not play for long in the NFL, but I think having them as the reserves and / third down running back to spell Penny and Kenneth, that's a really great situation to be in. And compared to, I think, 2017, 2019, when our running backs were like fat ass Eddie Lacy and so many injuries in 2019, we're bringing a couch potato Marshawn Lynch off the street and, playing in the NFL 4 days later, which was awesome. I loved that, but it was absurd that we needed to do that. So having that running back depth is great. But with all that out of the way, let's talk about the quarterback competition. Do you think either quarterback really made a exclamation point statement that I am the starter of this team, or do you think it's still TBD?
I'm going to say TBD, and I'm even going to take it a step further and say I would still like to see us go after Jimmy Garoppolo, especially after seeing the way our offensive line looked. I know you're kind of adamant on not going after a quarterback, but hey, look, nothing is guaranteed. How bad do we need to be in order to get a top pick next year for a good quarterback? And even then, that's a coin flip. So, I don't know. I thought
just
Gino,
don't want to pay for Jimmy. He's $25 million. That's the biggest reason why I don't want to.
Well, I'm sure whether it be trade or signing, we're not going to give him that amount of money.
I will say this: if he is cut, I'm not totally against it. But yeah, with the regular season starting in a month away, it seems less likely. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, going to the quarterbacks we currently have, I thought Gino looked slow to start, and then he kind of picked up speed towards the end of the half. 17-10, not terrible. Especially on the road. I did think, what was the third play of the game? He had to call a timeout because he couldn't, change the play at the offense.
That's so annoying.
Dude, you're supposed to know the offense and you can't even do that on the second or third play. So I thought that was a little bit, head scratcher there. Drew Lock, he looked good. There was a couple
I think he's clearly much more talented than Gino.
Mm-hmm.
For his arm is legit.
Yeah,
he has a really good arm.
Yeah, the last play of the game, what can you do? He's got to see that. But again, it's the first preseason game.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna be too hard on him for that. However, I agree. I would rather see Drew Lock out there. The ceiling is, in my opinion, higher than Geno Smith's. Not sure how low the floor is compared to Geno, but I will say, kind of playing devil's advocate to the Drew Lock argument. Do you think it would be easier for all of our rookies to sort of grow and adapt to a guy like Geno being our quarterback, a game manager, so to speak? It would be easier to grow around a guy like that rather than Drew, someone who is also learning with the offense and, maybe going to turn the ball over 1 to 2 times more than Geno a game. Takes a little bit of more chances there downfield. Maybe more of a gunslinger mentality than a Geno Smith. Do you think that would be good in development with the rookies around him? Because you got to think, you have guys like Derek and Bo Melton as receivers. They're probably not going to be starting as much, but I don't know.
Someone's got to take the third receiver position on this team, though, because God, Dwayne Eskridge seems determined to never play football while being a professional football player.
Yeah,
very frustrating.
He's still hurt, isn't he?
Still hurt.
Yeah, what is going on with him?
I think it's his hamstring, but I'm like, what the hell did you do to your hamstring? Why are you missing so much time from it? It's very weird.
Yeah, but anyway, that I don't know. It's tough to say who's going to be the starter week 1, just because I do see that upside of, okay, we have Geno out there. He's going to be the same thing every time he goes out. A game manager, not going to put up 35 points, 30 points, maybe even 25 points a game, but he's going to keep you in the game. We were only down a touchdown at half. So,
yeah. But to me, my take on the situation is just remember how Geno was for, 3.5 games last year. People say he was horrible. He wasn't. He was not good, though. He was basically, what I get from watching Geno play is he plays like a very lesser Russell Wilson, but actually uses the middle of the field. But what I mean about that is Geno doesn't, when he gets the ball out quick, I have no problem with the way he plays quarterback. But sometimes he hangs onto the ball and tries to be a super athlete. I'm like, dude, you're 31. You were never that athletic to begin with. Like, throw the damn ball away. That first sack he took, totally his fault.
On a Trubisky to Olszewski touchdown pass. Here's Geno into some pressure. Scott trying to get to him, and he's dragged down from the ankles by Henry Mondo.
He had like 5 seconds to get rid of the ball. And to me, like, I'd rather have Drew throw a 50-50 ball on 3rd and 15, 40 yards down the field that gets picked than watch Geno do that. That's just my, like, and I'm sure Pete Carroll doesn't feel the same way. But from my point of view, like, I hate watching that happen. You know, I hated it when Russ would run around there for 10 seconds and get a 20-yard sack because it's just like so dumb. But I think Geno, I mean, the good with Geno is he protects the football. The bad with Geno is he protects the football so much. I mean, if he plays all 17 games this year, he's probably going to average like 160, 170 yards passing a game. I don't say that with exaggeration. I don't think Geno's capable of throwing for 300 yards in a game just because of the way he plays quarterback.
I'd agree with that. And sorry, continue.
Oh, and I was going to say, what I saw out of Drew is the offense is more dynamic with him. There's more downfield shots. They both did a lot of play action rollouts, actually, which I'm fine with. Sean McVay play actioned Jared Goff to almost a 5,000 yard season. So it's easier to play quarterback when you only need to make like 2 or 3 reads and they're all going the same direction. So I'm all for the play action. But anyways, it was weird because Geno started slow and then kind of got hot. And with Drew, he started hot and then, you know, had the big mistake, which he owned up to, which was nice. I'm not going to be too hard on him on the strip sack because it literally was less than 2 seconds after the ball snapped. He's killed by a free edge rusher. But the thing that's frustrating about that is I did a little digging and I forget who posted it, but he missed a hot read there, a free edge rusher. So all he needed to do was look left, throw the ball over that guy to the check down running back. Drew did that the previous drive. It was the same exact situation on the same side. He saw the guy, identified it, hit the running back, got like 3 yards. If he did that on that play, there was no one behind the running back, so he might have gotten like 15, 17 yards on that play, and we're talking about a field goal. So it's a bit frustrating that the mistake he made was a correct decision that he made like 5 minutes, 10 minutes prior. So we'll see. And I'm sure that's the kind of thing that even though Drew is clearly like a better, more talented quarterback than Geno, he's younger, more mistake prone. And to summarize where I think this is going, I do think it's Geno's job. I don't want it to be Geno's job. I want to see what Drew has, but every single time Pete Carroll talks about it, he says, "Oh, it's even, but I like this thing Geno did." Every single time he talks about it, and that's going all the way back to when we traded for Drew, which is just, it's kind of curious to me for the always compete guy to kind of offhand be making all these remarks and, you know, Drew's not hardly getting any first team snaps. It's like, how can you call this a competition when you're not really letting it be one? Yeah. It seems to me like Pete, for some reason, has a love affair with Geno and doesn't really want Drew to take it because it's just like, well, why was he part of the trade then? I don't know. It seems a little puzzling to me. Maybe I'm reading way too much into it. And if Drew, like, I think there's some things about Drew that are exciting. But I also do think, like, if he is going to turn into be a long-term option for us, he's got to be able to clearly beat out Geno, you know? And if he can't do that, it is what it is. So yeah, I'm at peace with the situation. Yeah. And at some points, I mean, maybe this is a shot in the dark, but I do wonder if it has anything to do with the confidence of Drew Lock, because, I mean, yeah, it's great to see him, you know, own up to his mistakes. But if you think about it, all the good quarterbacks never really back down when they say, oh, yeah, that's on me, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you think about Russell Wilson, I remember I was listening to
podcast the other day when they were talking about this whole situation. I think it was Pete Carroll last year said something about changing a play, doing a check down, whatever, to end one of the games that we had lost last year. And they asked Russell the same question because he didn't,
Yeah, I remember exactly what you're
recognize
talking
that.
about.
And Russell responded, I believe in doing whatever you can to win the game, blah, blah, blah. So Russell didn't admit or own up to his supposed failures. And I think that is admirable and maybe toxic at the same time, because
it's hard to say,
because you're the quarterback. You have to have a certain confidence in yourself in order to play that position. And does Drew Lock have that? I'm not so sure he does.
I mean, I think he's got a little swag to him. I think what I really like about Drew is he's very transparent, which is a complete 180 from phony baloney Russell Wilson. And it's funny that I'm calling him not that now, but like, good God, that some of the things that I'm seeing on his social media are just like, what happened to you, dude?
Speaking of which, real quick, I can't, like, we talked about this the other day. I don't know how you're feeling, but I seriously can't believe I'm at a point in my football fandom career, if you'll call it that, where I enjoy Aaron Rodgers more as a human being than I do Russell Wilson. I'm completely shocked with myself because 10 years ago, when Aaron Rodgers stormed off the field, stomped off like a crybaby when the Fail Mary,
that was when my hatred for Rodgers
that was when it started building, because I was like, you little baby, grow the fuck up.
And he's got such a pouty face sometimes, but no, I mean, honestly, like I've listened to a bunch of Rodgers interviews on the Pat McAfee show, and his recent, I loved his whole ayahuasca thing simply because he was willing to discuss that. And he gets shit on a lot by the, like, I hate saying this, but the woke media because of his vax situation, which, I mean, at this point, it's whatever, like it's 2022. We know all this about the virus, and I don't think anyone's really ultra caring about vaccinating anymore when it comes to that particular virus. All that aside, just like with what I was saying about Drew, I love how Aaron has just been kind of open and honest and actually giving an answer to a question instead of just saying like, oh, all glory to God, I'm doing everything I can to help this team win. Like I'm so sick of those answers. Like, give me your honest take on something. Don't give me coach speak.
I loved Aaron when, I don't know if you watched the podcast when he was on with Aubrey Marcus. That was the guy that was interviewing him.
I just saw a little clip. I need to listen to the whole thing.
Well, one of the things Aaron lives by that I thought was like, I totally respect that, is him saying, don't be afraid to be unapologetically yourself. And you never see stuff like that with Russell Wilson because he's never honest.
Just sports in general,
he's never honest, and it really seems like he has his head in the celebrity clouds. If that makes sense.
He did not used to be like this.
Yeah,
genuinely, I don't think he was like this till about maybe 2019, 2020 is when 2020 when Let Russ Cook got copyrighted. That was the first thing where I was like, what's going on here? And what's funny is since that game, he has not been that great. I think he's going to have a statistically good season, and I think they're going to go at most 11-6 is my prediction. So I think they're playoff team. I think Wilson's a Pro Bowler.
They have a hard 6-game stretch at the end of the season too. I think they play like the Cardinals, the Chargers, the Ravens. They play the Chiefs, I believe.
Yeah. Well, they usually load up the schedule with divisional games at the end of the year, which I love because it makes it interesting. But there's a pretty compelling case to be made that the Broncos are the third best team in that division. I think the Chiefs are going to take a step back this year. But I think Mahomes is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson, especially at this stage in their careers.
Right.
I think Herbert is looking like he might be the next big thing in the NFL at the quarterback position.
I'd agree with that.
I don't really buy into the Raiders as much as some other people. I think they're going to be a solid team. That's a team that could split the series with the Broncos. So
I'll tell you what, they got a really good offense. They have three really viable pass catchers.
I keep forgetting they have Devontae Adams.
Yeah, and not to mention Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. Those are no guys to sleep on, especially Hunter Renfrow. Everyone forgets about him because he looks like a balding 34-year-old dad. But that dude can take a hit and pop right back up. So
he can.
I'm a pretty big Hunter Renfrow fan.
He also runs some crisp routes. These are such white guy compliments. I'm sorry, Hunter, but it just is what it is, man.
Hey, you got to take what you can in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about all we can glean from preseason other than DK Metcalf is extended. I don't expect to see him and Tyler all for but one drive this whole preseason. But let's talk about some baseball for a little bit, because as of right now, Mariners are the top wild card team. But there's 7 other teams potentially at play for that wild card spot?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the standings right now for the wild card. Obviously, you got the Houston Astros, the Yankees, and the Cleveland Guardians are winning their division.
That name sucks so hard. I will never not think that.
The only reason why they chose it is because it rhymes with Indians or sounds similar to it, or ends in IANS. That's my theory on why they're the Guardians now. But you got, for the wild card, you got us leading the charge. We're 63-54. Then you got the Tampa Bay Rays, 61-53. And then the Blue Jays tied with them at 61-53. You got the Baltimore Orioles. They're kind of sneaking up.
They've been on a kind of a hot streak.
They kind of remind me a lot of us from last year. We were like not supposed to be where we were, and then we came out of nowhere and won 90 games. So, but we got pretty much everyone in our lineup that we need to have healthy. We got Mitch Haniger. Him being back is huge because he's gotten a base hit in every single game since he's been healthy.
Nice.
Which really seems like a man on a mission. I almost get the sense that this is totally me making this up, but it almost seems like he feels bad for missing all that time, that he's making up for it with his offense, because
I'm sure he was anxious because, it seems like the biggest thing that sticks out to me about the Mariners, and this is my totally dumbass opinion, but it seems like their team has a good bond and good chemistry.
Oh, yeah. I love this team, and I love, we remember Jesse Winker getting in the fight with the Angels. He's pretty much torn them apart since that fight. Had another home run yesterday.
You love to see it.
Yeah, he had the grand slam a couple weeks ago. He's just been on a tear, and it's really cool seeing Luis Castillo, the guy we traded for. When we gave up our 5th, 3rd, and 1st top prospect in our farm system, and you're like, holy shit, we're giving up everything to get this guy. And even that was my reaction when we got him. I was like, why did we give up so much for this guy? And then I saw him pitch, and I was like, oh, this guy is like Felix Hernandez in his prime. This guy is legit.
Jeez, he's playing that good?
Yeah, he throws a 98 mile an hour four seam, and his sinker is filthy. But yeah, he is easily our best pitcher. Better than the Cy Young Award winner we signed from last year in Robbie Ray. And it's just really cool to see Julio back and healthy. Obviously Mitch Haniger, because if you look at our lineup, we have Julio leading off, Ty France batting second.
Who's also having a really good season, right?
Yeah, he was an all-star. Mitch, he's batting over 300 now, which is insane.
Hell yeah.
When he got hurt, he was batting like 190 with a couple home runs. Well, he'd only played like 10 games.
Yeah,
so
that's not a big sample size.
Yeah.
And it's fun because I don't watch every game. In fact, I hardly watch the whole games, period, except for the ones that I end up going to. But I track what's going on every day now because I'm stoked. You can feel the excitement kind of bubbling up in Seattle, especially over Julio. He's the next big Seattle star right now.
Dude, remember that video I sent you of when he was wearing the cutoff t-shirt and he was like fielding fly balls in the outfield and he was ripped for some reason?
Yeah. Isn't he only 21 too?
Yeah, he's 21.
That's so awesome.
I was just like, holy shit, he looks like a wide receiver, like with those arms? Why do you have those? You play baseball.
And he just seems cool. Like it's awesome to have someone on your team that's a star, young, and is just like a cool guy.
Yeah, he's one of the most positive. He has one of the most positive attitudes like I've ever seen in the sport. But not just like Russell Wilson positive where you're like, are you even sincere? He's like always happy, always cheering the team from the dugout.
Yeah.
He's just really fun to watch.
Oh, okay. So one last thing I want to talk about before we sign off. Have you noticed how many former Seahawks from the LOB days have been showing up to practice and have been very involved?
I think it's a little peculiar.
It's starting to seem like maybe not a coincidence. And you remember all those reports, 7-8 years ago about how there was division in the locker room. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, it's all bullshit. It's starting to seem a little less like bullshit as time goes on, isn't it?
Yeah. And
just a little food for thought.
Well, and a little side note, this is a little different, but somewhat on the same lines. I've been hearing from, numerous reports, Denver training camp. Guess who's been going in and out of the facility willy-nilly like they basically are a member of the team? Sierra. And I've heard a lot of Denver reporters being like, well, is that what went on in Seattle? Did Sierra just no?
Yeah, it really seems like with Russell's move, like he thinks he is the team now. Like I think it's taken his ego up a whole nother notch. And I'm not, this podcast was never meant to be the Russell Wilson shit show. I still have a lot of respect for the guy, for everything he did for us, but I've never seen someone change so rapidly in the sports world. Maybe I haven't been around long enough to see it happen, but it's obnoxious the way he pulls up to training camp in that space truck. Looks like a warthog from Halo.
That thing is, I want that thing to get blown up by a tank.
I would watch that video, as long as no one's inside it, shoot a missile at it. But anyways, I just thought that's really interesting. But the fact that Sherman was at our mock game, that almost brought a tear to my eye.
What was he doing? Isn't he still in the Bucs?
No, he's a free agent. I think he hasn't announced his retirement yet, but I think he's done playing.
Don't you think it's a little ironic that he talked such a big game about how much he hated the media, and now he's just a member of the media having a podcast and everything like that? I think that's so funny.
I think he's great at it.
No, I think that's, because I remember he majored in communication, and I think he's a good communicator.
He's a very intelligent man, too.
Yeah.
Sherman is someone, he went to the 49ers, he talked a bunch of shit. I was never mad at Richard Sherman. I've always loved him. I still have his jersey. He's one of my all-time favorite Seahawks.
Earl Thomas, a little different story. He seems a little crazy to me.
I think he genuinely has some demons and some issues he needs to work out.
He might have CTE.
He might. Also, his house got struck by lightning and burned down. Did you hear about that?
What?
Yeah, that happened a few days ago. Everyone's okay. His family's okay. But
damn,
yeah,
the cards are not going his way.
Seriously. Ever since the middle finger, his life has just been on
yeah, he you can, the list goes on. The whole brother thing where we'll not get into that. But then he got turned into a meme when he blocked for Derrick Henry in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We all remember that. And then obviously getting cut by the Ravens due to his attitude.
After he had a pretty good season too. So.
Yeah, it's
I think
it's a bummer.
I think the issues with that guy, and unfortunately, you heard what happened with Brandon Browner too, right? He's in prison. Yeah. Football is a violent sport. Sometimes violent people play football, and they get a lot of head injuries. So it is what it is. But anyways, to end the podcast on a more happy note, Jonah and I are both going to training camp on Sunday, and I'm going to the preseason game on Thursday. So we will have lots more news for you coming up in just a few days here. Any other closing thoughts, Jonah?
No, other than I didn't realize that was this Sunday. That's kind of awesome. Yeah,
just a few days away.
We'll hopefully, sneak by some security guards, throw a couple vests on, and act like we're members of 710 ESPN, and we'll try and get some interviews.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a couple fake press passes. we're going to have some good stuff for you in the coming days.
Yeah,
so
we'll try and get
tuned.
the printer working, print up some interesting mocks on what our passes could look like. Maybe, I don't know. Just some food for thought there.
Yeah, we'll get that going. But anyways, thanks for listening if you made it this far, and we will catch you next time.
Yep, see you next time.